Organizations deploy artificial intelligence with perfect guardrails, strictly monitored parameters, and complete compliance. Yet at the enterprise level, these same structures buckle and collapse. Billions of dollars flow into AI safety frameworks built around a single defensive premise. At the center of this massive investment is a mechanism known as drift detection. This infrastructure asks one continuous question: is the system deviating from its established parameters? That question assumes a correct course was permanently established at the moment of deployment, a premise that ignores how human-AI partnerships actually evolve over time. This creates a surveillance-based posture. The framework obsessively monitors the tool for non-compliance, but completely ignores the operational constraints of the human operating it. When things go wrong, operations leaders see specific symptoms emerge. Critical human capabilities slowly degrade. Model alignment drifts. Automation bias increases. Standard governance models label these symptoms as root problems, or worse, moral failures of the individual operators. They are neither. These phenomena are downstream indicators. They are evidence that the structural coherence of the human-AI partnership has broken down. Measuring a tool's compliance while completely ignoring the operational pressure placed on the human using it is the primary misdiagnosis of modern AI governance. The critical variable missing from standard AI governance is operational load. Operational leaders already understand a universal truth that AI researchers often miss. Human behavior degrades predictably when subjected to scale. A doctor seeing 5 patients a day makes decisions differently than a doctor forced to see 50. A pilot flying once a week reacts differently than one flying 5 sectors a day. This flowchart shows how limits apply to human-AI partnerships. An operator verifying 3 decisions behaves differently than one handling 300. Drift detection flags AI failures, but offers no positive theory of partnership health. It remains completely blind to human capacity limits reaching saturation. When operational demand exceeds human capacity, the breakdown is mechanical, not theoretical. Contestability collapses. Overwhelmed by volume, humans simply stop checking the AI's outputs. What the industry calls automation bias is a direct, observable response to unsustainable pressure. This collapse in oversight is a predictable, structural capacity failure. Current governance frameworks simply lack the instruments to see it. Managing this requires a discipline well known to enterprise leaders: workforce planning. Emergency rooms, flight decks, and call centers do not judge their systems purely by the coherence of individual agents. They measure whether the system can physically handle the workload. Yet standard AI governance applies none of this forecasting to its operations. This approach uses a 4-layer architecture. Layer 1, the baseline, documents starting conditions. Layer 2 tracks coherence, monitoring relational health. Layer 3 is trajectory, tracking change to catch silent degradation. Finally, Layer 4 applies strict workforce forecasting to detect saturation before the system breaks. These layers are strictly interdependent. The first 3 cannot function operationally without the 4th to sustain them. Incorporating Layer 4 translates AI governance from an abstract set of ethical guidelines into a concrete, fundable management instrument. Consider a banking team whose workload increases by 40% over 6 months. During this exact same period, the team makes 0 compliance errors. Evaluated through a drift-centric lens, the system is performing perfectly. Because no boundaries have been crossed and no errors recorded, the framework interprets the heavy volume purely as a positive productivity signal. This dual dashboard visualizes the exact same scenario from both perspectives. While the drift side stays green, the coherence architecture sees a completely different reality. Coherence utilization is rising dangerously. Even without a single error, capacity is approaching saturation, meaning an oversight collapse is mathematically imminent. Catching this requires tracking leading indicators. The override decay rate dropping signals humans aren't challenging AI outputs. Meanwhile, review time compression points to dangerous rubber stamping as analysis time sharply decreases. Another indicator is confidence divergence, which tracks the widening gap between the system's certainty and the human's actual calibration. What drift governance celebrates as an unmitigated productivity triumph, coherence governance accurately diagnoses as an impending systemic failure. This exposes a deeper behavioral change in how humans interact with intelligent systems across the enterprise. human engagement with AI is shifting from isolated transactional prompts to sustained, highly collaborative, and continuous partnership workflows. Enterprise AI deployment is now a sustained relational engagement. The system continuously shapes how operators think, what they notice, and what they consider possible. Failing to manage this relationship generates a hidden financial liability, relational coherence debt. This balance sheet reveals how this debt accumulates quietly. Standard productivity metrics spin higher, masking the exponential growth of structural risk underneath. In the near term, organizations absorb the costs through individual user frustration, severe trust erosion, and sudden workflow ruptures. Over the medium term, this expands into systemic disruption. Essential organizational learning fails to propagate between teams. Long term, the result is massive capability atrophy, operating invisibly at an enterprise scale. Organizations that deploy AI aggressively without relational infrastructure accumulate coherence debt that eventually requires extensive and expensive capability recovery efforts. Business and governance leaders face an immediate operational imperative. Coherence utilization must be added to the formal enterprise risk register, sitting directly alongside cybersecurity and compliance. Capital allocation must shift. Funding should move away from purely defensive detection systems and toward human readiness and relational infrastructure. Load-induced coherence saturation represents a more immediate and probable threat to operational stability than theoretical rogue AI scenarios. Drift-centric governance tells an organization exactly when to hit the brakes. Coherence-centric governance tells an organization how to build an engine capable of handling the load without failing in the first place. Treating AI governance strictly as an emergency response mechanism falls short. Sustainable enterprise deployment requires engineering for partnership health.